everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to discuss a new term called a finite arithmetic series. The word finite means that it ends. You're probably used to hearing infinite. That means it goes on forever. So when I say finite, I mean it ends. So a finite arithmetic series is simply a sum of an arithmetic sequence. And here's the formula that we're going to use, where S sub n is the sum of the nth terms, n is the number of terms, a sub 1 is the first term, and a sub n would be the last term. So the only way I can explain this is through an example, and I think that would be the easiest way. So example number 1 says, determine the sum of the first 100 terms of this sequence. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the relationship between this sequence and then a series. So technically, a series is if I were to just write this sequence out as a sum. So -1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 and continue. This is technically the series where this is the sequence. So when I say series, I mean I want you to sum up the sequence. So the first thing that you want to analyze is in the problem, it says they want to find the sum of the first 100 terms. And if you look over here in the formula, n is the number of terms. So in this particular problem, we have that the number of terms, n, is going to be 100. And they give you this sequence. So we need a couple things. We need the first term, which we have here. So I can go ahead and write that down. So a sub 1 is my first term, and we'll say that that's -1. So I can go ahead and highlight all the colors. So this is my first term here. And my last term, I'll put in blue. So my last term is 7. So a sub n, which is my last term, is 7. And now I think we're ready to answer the question. Find the sum of this sequence. So if I would like to find the sum of the first 100 terms, that means n is 100. So let's first write down the formula. So S sub n equals n times a1 plus an over 2. So I want to find the sum, S, of the first 100 terms, n. So if I'm putting in 100 in for this n, then I'm going to put 100 in for that n. So 100. I have my first term, which is -1. And I have my last term, a sub n, which is 7. And all I have to do is plug that into the calculator for the final answer. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video, type it in, and hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so I have that the answer is 300. So what this notation means is the sum of the first 100 terms adds up to 300. All right, so that's it for the first one. Let's try another one. So example number 2 says, find the sum of this sequence. Okay, so let's start with the formula so we know what pieces we need. So S sub n is equal to n times a1 plus an all over 2. So the difference between this problem and the first problem is that I don't tell you how many terms there are. We went from 7 to 10 to 13, ... all the way up to 49. So I'm eventually going to have to figure out how many terms there are. But let's see what we have. We have our first term, which is 7. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here for a sub 1. We have our last term, which is 49. So I can go ahead and put that in there. And the only thing we would need to finish the question is the number of terms. So I'm going to just leave some space. A sub 1 is 7, a sub n is 49, all over 2. So in order to find the amount of terms, we have to go back to that arithmetic sequence formula that you learned last week. And we have the last term, which is a sub n. So I can plug in a sub n is 49. I have my first term, 7, which is a sub 1, and I'm going to try to find n, the number of terms, given a common difference. Well, they didn't give it to us, but we could figure it out. 7 plus what is 10? 10 plus what is 13? So obviously you can see there that the pattern is adding 3, therefore that's my common difference. So we're going to use this particular formula to help us find n. So we'll just distribute out this 3 and solve. So 49 is equal to 7 plus 3n minus 3. Combine like terms on the right side. We have 3n plus 4 because 7 minus 3 is a positive 4 equals 49 minus 4 on both sides. 45 is equal to 3n, divide by 3, and we get 15. So that tells me there are 15 terms to get me to the number 49. So I'm asking to find the sum of the first 15 terms where n is 15. So now's the time to pause the video, type that into the calculator, and hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so the sum I got was 420. All right, let's try another example. Okay, so this is example number 3. So it says, in an auditorium has 21 rows of seats. The first row has 18 seats, and each succeeding row has 2 more seats than the previous row. How many seats are in the auditorium? So by them asking you how many seats there are in an auditorium, they're asking you to sum up the amount of seats that there are. So you want to think that we need to use that sum formula. So we're going to start with S sub n equals n a1 plus an divided by 2. So we need a few things. We need the first term and the last term. So it tells you that the first row has 18 seats. So this first row having 18 seats is our a sub 1. So a sub 1 is equal to 18. And it tells you that each succeeding row has 2 more seats than the previous. That is your common difference. So here, my common difference is 2. So if you even want to map it out, here's your stage in an auditorium, right? And here's your first row of seats. So if there's 18 in the first row, then there's 2 more in the second row, so there's a little bit more. This would be 20. And then if you keep going, adding 2 more rows, this would be 22 seats, and so on, right? That would be your pattern of seats. So that's why my common difference is 2. So they tell you that the auditorium has 21 rows of seats. So row 1, row 2, row 3, that is your n. So this tells you that there are 21 rows. So if I want to find the sum, S sub 21, of the first 21 rows, my first term is 18, and I don't know what my last term is. So I know that n is 21 because there's 21 rows of seats. So we need to use n over here. So I need to find a sub 21. And once I do that, I will have enough information to plug into the formula. So we have to use the formula that we used last week. A sub n is equal to a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. So if I want to find the 21st term, my first term is 18, which I have here. And my number of terms n is 21, so that n also needs to be 21. And my common difference, d, is 2. So all you want to do is type this into the calculator just the way you see it, and you will get the value of the last term, or the 21st term. So go ahead, type that into the calculator, and then hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, I got 58. So now all we need to do is go back to our original equation, and to find the sum of the first 21 terms, we take n, which is 21, add it to the first term, and a sub 21 is now 58, and divide it by 2. So all I did here was replace a sub 21 with what I found. So go ahead, pause the video, type that in, and hit resume when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so I got 798. So the sum of 21 terms is 798. So to be specific, there are 798 seats in this auditorium. All right, that's it for today. If you have any questions, please let us know.